Well, good evening, afternoon, or good morning, depending where you are joining us from. Welcome back here to the launch pad and our live launch coverage of today's Arianespace Soyuz launch. This is take 2. If you were with us yesterday, let us know in the chat that you were here. We are hoping that the weather will be better for today's launch. They did have a go for propellant load at T-minus 5 hours, and we're expecting Arianespace to begin their live feed here in just a couple of minutes. So we're glad to have you all here with us. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Zach. I'm the host and founder of the Launchpad, and here at TLP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, and we believe space is better together, so we invite you to be active in our chat, hanging out over in our Discord. We got some people in live comms, and we'll be hanging out in there after the launch as well. Also, just to put on your radar, we do have another launch later tonight. We have a ULA Atlas V launch launching at about 3 a.m. Eastern, so if you're up, we hope you will join us for that as well. We've got people all over the world tuning in. We got Peru, New Orleans, New Zealand, Indiana, Lunar Orbit, New Mexico, Manchester, BC, Canada. Great to have some of you all here. We are working on getting our mic and video sequence lined up in this new broadcast system, so bear with me if there's a little bit of lag there. Once we get into the actual launch, that will all be lined up. It's just our cam and mic is just a little bit out of sync here, so we are working on that. As always, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat. We'll be answering those live as the evening progresses through the countdown to launch and the Coast Phase 2 deployment. Currently, we are expecting Arianespace to go live, but before they do, we'll run through a little bit of what we're expecting for today's mission. So today is the completion of the Galileo Constellation, which is a navigation satellite constellation for Europe. Today, there's 2 Galileo satellites on board, weighing 1,600 kilograms or 3,500 pounds, and it's launching out of Kourou, French Guiana. So this is where we normally would see the Ariane 5s launch from. There's a secondary launch site there that can withstand 2 different Soyuz crafts, and this is one of them. Today is a Soyuz STB, or similar to what a Soyuz 2.1 would be over in Roscosmos at the Kazakhstan and Russia launch sites, but it has a Fregat-MT upper stage. We'll see a little bit more about that from Arianespace when they go live. Soyuzes are not recoverable, so they will be having the side boosters and the center core splashing down in the Atlantic Ocean. This is the 123rd orbital launch of 2021 for any agency, and the 150th mission launched by Arianespace for any European institutions. So an exciting milestone for them. Taking a quick look at where they'll be launching to and what's already actually in orbit. There are 22 other satellites currently in the orbit of the constellation, and they do have these last 2 that will be joining them. There we go. So this is what's currently up there. This is an awesome site called Stuff in Space, so you guys can check out anytime and search pretty much any satellite and see its current orbit. So this is a medium Earth orbit at an inclination of 56 degrees at 23,222 kilometers, or just under 14,500 miles. And it has 3 orbital planes. So that's why you can see 3 main lines. There is a 4th plane in here from some of the early test ones, but the main 3 are those. But you can see the launch years as well and go into each specific, so you can check that out. Stuffin.space. And then if you actually click groups, because this is launching now, they've actually made it easier to flag that one. So that is the orbit they're going into. If you remove the search there, you can see everything that is in an Earth orbit and go all the way deep in and see just how busy low Earth orbit really is getting. So this is why orbital debris is something that's so serious, is there is a lot of satellites that are up there, but today we're worrying about that Galileo constellation. The Galileo Constellation, I said, is in Europe. To give you an idea of the minimum devices that could use it, so these are the oldest devices, anything from Apple, from iPhone 8 and 10 and up, Google Pixel 2 and 2 XL and up, Huawei P10, P9, Mate 9 Pros, and stuff and up. We got the Motorola Moto X4, the Nokia 8, the OnePlus 5, any Samsung from S8, S8 Plus, and Note 8 and up. We got the Verne Apollo 2, the Sony Xperia XZ Premium, and the BQ Aquarius V Plus, and a few others there. So that's the kind of minimums of what was able to support the Galileo Constellation for navigation. So that is what we're looking at there. We are waiting to see if there's any update here from Arianespace, as they have not actually gone live yet, which is odd. They are normally on time for their streams here, but we are waiting for them to begin. We are expecting the launch to occur at 7:19 p.m. Eastern, 9:19 local time, or just after the top of the new day, so 0:19 a.m. UTC. So we are right now about 30 minutes away from that, so we are expecting them to go live here momentarily, and we will patch that in, of course. If you guys have questions, you can continue sending those in the chat, and we'll be answering those live. If you're new, also take a moment, hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out, and we appreciate your guys' support with that. Also, take a moment, head on over to our Etsy shop. You've still got about 48 hours left that you can order your shirts and stuff for the James Webb launch, as well as to arrive for Christmas. So you can get your Deck the Halls with loads of rockets. They're all ready to go for the holiday season. So you can check that out there, and we appreciate that support. Good morning, Joe from Hong Kong. Good to see you. Hey, another Joe there. Delay isn't too bad. Awesome. Yeah, we're slowly tweaking it. There we go. We got Arianespace finally live, so that'll be able to give us our live view of the rocket out on the pad. We will, of course, patch in their audio once they go live to give us an update on the rocket itself. Hello, Don from Victoria. Great to hear you. Joe, they are launching from South America, so it'll be too high for the UK to see. Most likely, yeah, it will be pretty high at that point for it. Hey, Richie, good to see you. Heather, good to see you. French Guiana is a French territory in South America. Great call out there, Joe. That's pretty important, actually. Appreciate that. We're going to patch over into Arianespace so you can see the live view of the rocket. They don't have a countdown on the screen just yet, but we'll keep an eye out for that. And hopefully have their audio here in the next couple of minutes. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Yeah, 12K, really crazy. It's been a whirlwind of a year. We appreciate your guys' support. We've set the really crazy goal of 15K by the end of the year, which is like our 100th stretch goal of the year, because you guys keep blowing through them. But appreciate each and every one of you. If you are new, hit the subscribe button. It does help us out. If you're returning, hit the like button. I know it's annoying to hear people mention it, but it actually really does help, and it's a great free way of supporting your favorite channels for it. Abort yesterday, yes. So they had an abort yesterday, down to the T-minus 8 minute and about 22-second mark, right as the narrator was actually saying, hey, could weather still be an issue? One of the lights on the board went red, and it was the downrange weather forecast. So there was a risk of lightning along the flight path, and that is an issue for these rockets, as they do tend to increase the possibility of creating lightning with the speed and friction and everything that they're doing through the atmosphere. So they did have to delay yesterday's launch. They have another launch window today, but these are pretty much instantaneous launch windows because they're launching it into a constellation. So if they have any holds, then they're off to that next window. So that is what it is. If you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. You're watching our live launch coverage of Arianespace VS-26 launching a Soyuz out of the French Guiana in the northeastern tip of South America. Today they're launching 2 navigation communication satellites for Europe for the Galileo Constellation, the last 2 satellites required to complete the 24 satellite constellation. Thanks, Caveman. Appreciate it. Greetings, Face fans. Great to have you all here. If you guys are just joining us and have any questions about today's launch or anything else space, you can send that in the chat. If you want to jump the queue, if you ever see one, you can send it in as a super chat or super sticker as well. That helps support what we do. If you'd like to get access behind the scenes, you can also become a YouTube or Patreon member, and you can see all the live behind the scenes of scripting, editing, video editing, recording, and all that over on our Discord. But our Discord is open for free to the public. If you guys want to hang out in there, you can head on over to there. We're going to see if this works here. There will be a link in the chat there for you guys to be able to go to and hang out in there. We'll be live in there following the launch. Also, just to put on your radar, as I said at the beginning of the show, there is another launch here this evening. You guys can head over and join us back here in the early morning for the ULA Atlas V launching a satellite for the U.S. Space Force from Cape Canaveral. So we'll be live for that as well. Sondrex, wait, Soyuz can launch from the French Guiana? Yes, so there are two Soyuz crafts that are able to launch from the French Guiana for Arianespace, and they are the Soyuz STA and the Soyuz STB. These are variations of the Soyuz 2.1A and Soyuz 2.1B that we normally see launch out of Kazakhstan or Russia for Roscosmos, but they are able to launch. This is not a Roscosmos launch, though. This is 100% Arianespace. They just bought the rocket, so they are launching it themselves, and they go through their system in the French Guiana and how they launch that. But very similar. They've got the 4 side boosters, a center core, an upper stage, but they have options with the upper stage. They can do a Soyuz upper stage, or they can do the frigate upper stage, which is what they're going to be using on this mission, which is actually a fully independent upper stage that has its own flight controls and everything to help with the deployment of satellites for this type of launch where they need to be precisely deployed. Hey, Michael, good to see you. So there's no countdown clock up just yet. We are waiting to see a clock here. I'll see if they put it up on their French feed. We're on the English feed. But they might have... Did they put it on the French one? See, they put it on the French one. So we'll patch the French one in, because then we actually have the clock. I'm not sure why they didn't overlay that in the English, but that's okay. Easy fix. Do this. There we go. Got that fixed there. Oh, and as I say it, they put it up on the English one. Fantastic. Anyway, we got that fixed there. So if you're just joining us, we are at T-minus 21 minutes, 10 seconds and counting until liftoff. We are expecting to get an update in about 10 minutes from now. From them, so a very limited broadcast today compared to what we saw yesterday, where they were live for about an hour leading up to launch, but we are counting down those last 21 minutes and counting. Hey, Gustavo, that is really awesome. I'll put it out there for you. If your friend is interested and is allowed to, we always love doing quick conversations with people that have worked on them. We're launching a new series in the new year called Behind the Console. And we would love to connect with people actually working on these things. You know, obviously they can't talk details, but just like what it's like working on them. So if your friend's interested, if they can get in touch with us, Twitter, Discord, Facebook, email, something like that, that would be awesome. But appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for being here. That's super awesome. You're right, Bradley. Yep, there is a second launch today. We've got the Atlas V. That's going to be launching. We'll be going live at about 3 a.m. Eastern, or 10 a.m. UTC. So we hope you will join us for that. Both are not crewed missions. These are satellite missions here today. We are hoping that we have a good weather here this evening. As yesterday we did have that issue with the weather and the risk of lightning downrange. Something we don't hope to have occur here tonight. But as always, it is better safe than sorry for these launches. So that is what they are going to do. Taking a look again, if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. You're joining us for our live launch coverage of the Galileo's last two satellites. Quick look at where those satellites are heading into a medium low Earth orbit, just over 23,000 kilometers in orbit, into three different planes. So we'll hopefully have an idea of which planes those will be going in here later tonight. So you'll be seeing those. But those are those three consistent planes. This weird one you can ignore, but these are the three main planes that they go into to ensure, if we rotate over here to Europe, there is Europe there, to ensure that there is always a satellite coverage, because obviously they spin, they always have coverage over Europe. So that is why they do that there. Counting down T-minus 18 minutes, 18 seconds until liftoff here. This is a Soyuz 2.1B, is what we normally would call it. Because it's launching with Arianespace, we call it a ST-B, a Soyuz ST-B, but it has a frigate upper stage, which is a independent upper stage that will be able to help with the navigation deployment. It has its own attitude tracking and control, telemetry systems, navigation, to make sure that these type of satellites can get into their exact orbit. So that's what they're going to be launching here today. If you're just joining us, take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps us out. Almost 300 watching, and we're not even 100 likes. Take a moment, hit that like button. Hey, Kevin, thanks for being here. We'll see you later. Matthew, hey, how's it going? Thanks for live coverage again. Wonderful as always. Is this the same rocket that sends cosmonauts into space? So it's in the same family, but it is a slightly different rocket. So obviously the upper stage is totally different, but yes, there are many similarities to it. We have seen them launch on a 2.1B, which is kind of like a sister rocket to this one for Roscosmos. Absolutely. Guessing you watched the technical videos? Absolutely, I have. Do you want the technical names? I have them. So today's Soyuz STB has 4 side boosters, a center core, and its upper stage. The side boosters are using the RD-107A engine, which runs on liquid oxygen and RP-1, and those are for the 4 side boosters. The Soyuz center core runs a RD-108A engine, has 4 combustion chambers with 4 nozzles, and they contain also 4 attitude thrusters used for 3-axis flight control. The center core runs off RP-1 and LOX as well. Now, there was an optional third stage for it, which is the RD-0124 engine, which is used on the Soyuz 2.1B, but today they're using the Soyuz frigate upper stage for that deployments there. From making sure I have that all right. But yeah, those are the technical ones there. Of course, Everyday Astronaut had that great video on all the Russian engines. If you haven't checked it out, it's a long one, but some really cool information and history there. So it's awesome having that detail. Can see lots of launches these days. We have a lot. We've got, I think, 14 more on the docket for December. So we're gonna. It's like almost every other day, if not every day, we're live up until the holidays. So we're excited for that. It had been a pretty quiet summer, and even the fall was quieter than we expected. But we're excited to see everyone wrapping up for the end of this year. Hey, JA, good to see you. HK, what are your thoughts on the Ariane launch family's impact in the next 5 years? Will they be competitive? Well, Ariane 5 has launches for very specific types of missions, just because of how perfect of a record it really has. Um, for it. With the Ariane 6 going into testing, that's going to take some time to become fully competitive, but they are selling spots on it. So hopefully we'll see some more. I think it's because of also where it launches. It has it has some variety where it can launch too, but there's a lot of other launch sites in the world that people look at first. That's probably their biggest thing. So that is why we're looking at where it's important to watch these launches when they do happen, because we don't see too many out of the French Guiana. Only a few more a year. Sondrax, now do you have a cheat sheet or a memory? That's for me to know and you to find out, but it's a cheat sheet. There's a fair amount I'll memorize, but with the number of rockets and variations we have, you can't do everything. So we're glad to have that. I would rather have a cheat sheet and say it right than try to memorize it and say something wrong. We are literally talking about rocket science here, so we need to have those nitty gritty details correct. Panner, do you trust the launch for today? Ariane 5, Ariane 5, so used to that for French Guiana. Soyuz is a proven rocket. They're coming up on their 2000th Soyuz launch. If they haven't passed that already, it's been flying for decades. It's a safe rocket. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. T minus 13 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting until liftoff. If you're just joining us, welcome. You're watching our live launch coverage of today's Arianespace Soyuz launch. Yeah, you heard that right. Launching from the French Guiana, which is on the northern tip of South America. We can actually pull it up here for you guys, so you can see where in the world it actually is, because I know many do not. So let me pull this up here very briefly. Meant to have this up already. There we go. Satellites. And we'll do transition. There we go. So we'll quickly look at this here. Here is Kourou. And then the French Guiana Space Center is up over here, with the Space Museum and the airport. And this is the French Guiana Space Center, with some of its launch complexes in the mountain. So if we zoom out, so you can keep an eye on that mouse. Right where that little pin is, French Guiana, there's the world. So wherever my cursor is, that is where you're launching from here today. So that northern tip of South America. Coming down to T minus 12 minutes and counting. We're waiting to hear an update on the rocket. We're going to listen in for any updates that should be coming in here in the next couple of minutes from the Arianespace stream. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat. Just tag us at the Launchpad. That helps us make sure that we see those questions come in as the chat gets a little bit crazier there. And we appreciate that help from you guys while they're there. If you're just joining us, welcome to our live launch coverage of Arianespace VS-26, Soyuz launch from French Guiana, carrying the last two satellites of the Galileo Constellation. Let's listen in.
And thank you for joining us tonight on Road to Space for Arianespace's 13th launch of the year. The mission was postponed due to unfavorable weather conditions last night, but for the moment I'm glad to say that the green panel is looking very green. So the Soyuz launcher will be taking off as planned in about 10 minutes' time. It is carrying on board tonight Galileo mission. The program, which aims to provide meter-level geolocation accuracy, has been in operation since 2016 and now has 2.3 billion users worldwide. I think at the moment we're just listening now to Joel El-Gaghi, the CNES Director of Operations, better known by the acronym DDO, who's about to announce the start of the synchronized sequence. I'm sorry. Yes, he has just announced it. And the United Kingdom. Joseph Ashbacher, who took over as Director General last spring, has great ambitions for space. And in an interview we did with him recently, he talks about ESA's involvement in this project, which will be coming up in screens in the next 10 to 15 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen, a launch from our European spaceport is always a very special moment, and I'm very delighted to be witnessing today the 11th operational Galileo launch in 10 years. Galileo is a truly European partnership that positioned Europe as a leader for satellite navigation systems. With 2 new Galileo satellites launched today, we are accelerating the completion of the fleet that now already has 26 satellites in orbit, with more launches to come in the following months and years until we reach the full constellation of 38 satellites. We developed and designed the Galileo system from scratch, and our commitment to technical excellence has helped Galileo become the world's most precise satellite navigation system globally, with more than 2.3 billion users around the globe. With such a large fleet and its complex ground segment, also developed by the European Space Agency, Galileo is a truly European success and a program ESA is very proud of. All of this could not be possible without the strong partnership around the EU space program, with the European Commission owning the program, ESA carrying out the design and development of the system, and the EUSPA operating it for the benefit of European citizens and society as a whole. And I would like to here thank the European Union for the trust and strong relationship that has been built up and reinforced over the years. It is only 20 years ago that ESA introduced satellite navigation as a completely new activity in the European space sector. And it is our ambition and responsibility to maintain European leadership in the space navigation area. We are already working on the 2nd generation of Galileo with state-of-the-art, more powerful and advanced and fully reconfigurable satellites. This will secure European satellite navigation for the future and allow Europe to remain at the forefront of technology with full autonomy in the satellite navigation sector. As ESA will bring first Europeans to the moon, and with new lunar exploration missions to come that will have a crucial navigation component, ESA and Europe are even to reach new frontiers in the next years. Enjoy this Galileo launch. Thank you.
Of course, Galileo is one of Europe's flagship programs in the space sector. The satellites provide an alternative to America's GPS, which we all know, the Russians' GLONASS, or Chinese Beidou global satellite navigation systems. Now, the European Commissioner for Space, Thierry Breton, whose objective is to project Europe into the next technological race, talked to Road to Space about this ambitious program, which will ensure the European Union's autonomy in the field of geolocation. And we have an interview with him coming up now.
Aujourd'hui, nous passons une nouvelle étape dans le développement de...
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad and our live launch coverage of Arianespace VS-26, carrying 2 of the Galileo satellites to its constellation, the last 2 required. We're going to quickly talk over this because they've got the subtitles on there, and we are coming down to T-minus 6 minutes and counting. They're trying to squeeze in all their videos as they went live pretty late. But today, launching a Soyuz from the northeastern tip of South America, carrying those 2 satellites. This is entirely an Arianespace mission, as they bought the Soyuz from Roscosmos, and this is one of 2 variants that they can launch from there. As we get started, we'll listen into the final count through that launch sequence. If you guys have questions, though, you can send those in the chat. Just tag us at the launch pad, and we'll be answering those live as we go through the coast phase up to deployment. If you're new, take a moment, hit that like, subscribe button. It really does help us out. We're on the road to 15K by the end of the year. We're hoping to doing some big giveaways here as the end of the year comes up. And we're glad to have you all here. Also, to put it on your radar, there is a ULA Atlas 5 mission launching tonight, so we hope you'll join us for that. We'll be going live about 3 a.m. Eastern for that. That schedule is already streamed, so you can join us for that as well. If you're watching from over in Europe and you have a iPhone 8 or newer, a Huawei P10 Plus or newer, a Samsung S8 or newer, a OnePlus 5, and a Kia 8, or anything kind of in that era, you likely use the Galileo Constellation for your navigation. So this is an important launch for many of you, as it'll help make sure that there's even less risk of dropout of communications for your GPS. Joe, fun fact, if your handheld GPS starts moving at 3 kilometers a second, you'll stop getting help from satellites because they won't. Interesting. Didn't know that. Just drive around at 2.9 kilometers a second. If you're driving around that fast, I'm concerned. But if you're just joining us, welcome here. Hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to listen in here as we come down to T-minus 4 minutes and counting until liftoff of today's Arianespace Soyuz mission from the French Guiana. Stay with us.
Et notamment pour assurer une surveillance autonome de l'Europe. L'espace est un secteur absolument vital pour l'économie européenne. Et c'est ensemble, avec les entrepreneurs, que nous maintiendrons notre avance technologique. Nous pouvons et nous devons être fiers de ce qui a été accompli jusqu'ici, tous ensemble et à tous les niveaux. J'ai une pensée particulière pour toutes celles et tous ceux qui, au cœur des institutions et des agences européennes, ou au sein de nos partenaires comme l'Agence spatiale européenne, EUSPA, Arianespace, mais aussi les autres membres de l'industrie européenne active dans le domaine spatial, coopèrent au quotidien pour réaliser, construire, bâtir des projets tels que Galileo et en faire une réalité tangible. Merci donc à tous d'œuvrer au succès du programme spatial européen.
Well, the launch vehicle Soyouz will be lifting off in a couple of minutes. We can see it up on the screen. And Joel El-Ghaghi, the DDO, will be announcing the separation or drop-off of the upper composite umbilical connectors any minute now. Now, I'm looking up on the screen, and last night, it was pouring with rain, and now I can't see a spot of rain, maybe a light wind. But there she is. The Soyouz medium launch vehicle is there with the 2 satellites inside. And as I said, in a couple of seconds, we will be waiting expectantly for the DDO to announce the separation. It's now. Yes, we've just had the confirmation. Well, accompanying me tonight in the studio is Raphaël Chevrier. Good evening, Raphaël, and thank you once again for joining us here in Paris.
Good evening, Emma.
Good evening. Well, you are business developer in charge of innovation topics at Arianespace and our Road to Space expert. Tonight, of course, you will be taking us through each stage of this delicate mission, which unfortunately was delayed twice in a row, but we're back again. And we're now less than 2 minutes away from liftoff. So my first question to you is the launcher now autonomous?
It will be completely autonomous 40 seconds before liftoff when we stop the ventilation of the launch vehicle. And when the Soyuz launcher is tilted from ground energy supply to onboard energy supply. And from that point, we will retract the upper and lower masts. And what you will see 16 seconds before liftoff, and you can see the people actually leaving the Jupiter control room in order to see the show in live.
That must be great to be there.
What they will see 16 seconds before liftoff is the firing of the motor engines.
Attention pour moins 1 minute.
Of the 4 lateral boosters and the main core. And we will go from 0 to full power during these 16 seconds.
So we are currently 1 minute away from takeoff.
Moins 1 minute.
Let's momentarily stop the commentary and sit back and enjoy the liftoff together on Road to Space.
So we're here at T-minus 60 seconds and counting.
But just to remind you all that this is the 13th launch of the year for Arianespace, the 61st mission for the European Space Agency, and the 150th mission launched by Arianespace for European institutions.
There's that strong back arm retracting, T-minus 30 seconds and counting. I don't know about you, I would have preferred to see the rocket more than a couple of minutes before the launch, but they always let people out last minute. T-minus 20 seconds.
Largage du VKM. Allumage triétage. À
T
pause de
minus
DDO.
15.
Attention pour le décompte final.
T minus 10. 9. There's ignition.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Et décollage VS26, Galileo M9. Les paramètres à bord sont normaux.
T plus 30 seconds into flight. A nice night launch there with some great views from the Guiana Space Center.
Raphael, that was very impressive. That a ball of fire bolting into
Bonne
the
stabilisation du
sky.
lanceur.
I cannot get tired of it.
I bet.
Like really, it's always very impressive. And this is like, passing through the clouds.
What sort of speed is it going at
It
now?
is night. You cannot, you can hardly imagine that it's night right now because it's so bright.
It's so bright.
The light. So right now, Soyuz is providing the
Sol
main
nominal.
thrust for the mission to escape really the gravitational pull of the Earth. And in a few seconds, we should see the separation of the 4 lateral boosters that are surrounding the main core. I mean, you can imagine that in 2 minutes, the Soyuz will have gone from 0 to about 50 kilometers of
That's
altitude.
quite incredible.
From 0 to 2 kilometers per second.
Bonne stabilisation du lanceur. Tous les paramètres à bord sont normaux.
Like,
T
what
plus
was
90
the
It's now
seconds.
faster than like a bullet. Faster than a
Faster
bullet
than
right
a
now.
bullet.
Yeah.
You've got the earpiece. What is the DDO? What did he just say then?
It says that everything is nominal, the trajectory is nominal, so everything's looking good for Soyuz right now. So you can see the light coming from the 4 boosters.
So in 10 seconds, we will have the confirmation, won't we, of the separation of the boosters?
T plus 2 minutes.
And during
There's booster cutoff and
Yeah.
separation.
Oh, wow,
Oh,
you can
wow.
see
We
it.
can
What
see
a
it.
view.
It's
Wow, that's
incredible.
really
What
incredible.
a sight, Raphael.
Because usually you can see it in daylight, but at night it's
At
very
night,
rare.
it's quite incredible.
Yeah.
Must be a
Séparation des blocs BVGD.
So we should be in some seconds as well.
No,
being
so
seen.
it's confirmed. It's separated. You saw it, and you can tell that Soyuz is now waiting only. I'm saying only 100 tons. It was
Bonne stabilisation du lanceur suite à
310 tons
séparation.
before. So it lost 70% of its weight.
Wow, that's quite incredible. But so it's got 4 boosters.
Les paramètres
Is this
propulsifs sont
specific
conformes à
to
l'attendu.
Soyuz? Yeah, we can see now on the 3D images. It has 4 boosters. Can you talk to us about that?
Well, I mean, the size and the number of the boosters that you need for a flight really depends on how much power you want to give to your rocket to place the satellites into space. On Soyuz, you have 4 boosters. On Ariane 5, we have 2, but they are bigger. On Vega, we have 1 booster. So it really depends on the performance that is required for the mission.
Just to give you an idea what you're seeing on your screen as we pass through 3 minutes, 15 seconds into flight. Altitude just past 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers downrange, traveling 2.45 kilometers a second there. So the 2 maps on your left, one is the trajectory of its orbit and its inclination, and the second one there with the kind of green and yellow line is actually its altitude. And there is many times we'll see launching from French Guiana where they will actually slow down to go down and then speed up and kind of ride it like a wave. So keep an eye on that, on where those separation moments will occur and how the engine's thrust will actually perform. But now coming up at 300 kilometers already downrange, 2.85 kilometers a second, and there is fairing separation.
Attitude du lanceur conforme à l'attendu.
That's just been confirmed, has it not?
It is confirmed.
Séparation des 2 demi-coiffes.
So now it's confirmed, and it's a very
Brilliant.
good news because the mission can continue. You can imagine that it's an important step. Otherwise, we could not release the satellites into space. So it means that we are above the atmosphere,
Les paramètres à bord sont normaux.
and that the satellites don't need the protection of the fairing anymore. It was protecting them from the friction of the air.
So if I've understood rightly, we are now waiting for the separation of the second stage. Is that right?
Yes, it's right. And this is a peculiar separation because the third stage is going to ignite 2 seconds before, and this is actually the ignition of the third stage that will push the second stage and separate it from the rest of the launch vehicle. And it should come any
second now. There we go.
So waiting for the confirmation of the DDO. Because I remind that this is 3D simulations here.
Allumage bloqué, extinction bloca et séparation.
So it's confirmed.
That's
so
brilliant.
The
That's
mission
really
can
brilliant
continue.
news.
Another important step.
So the
achieved.
second stage, or the main core, has now been separated.
section
The
arrière.
third stage remains the one that powers the launch. What is the role of each of these stages for the launcher?
Well, having several stages increases the mass of the satellites to be put into
Bonne
orbit.
stabilisation suite à séparation.
So the principle is rather simple, and we progressively get rid of any mass on the launcher that is useless. It's like if you want an image, you can consider a fuel truck. Let's consider that the truck is driving using the gas contained in its tanks. When the first tank is empty, it becomes completely useless, so it becomes dead weight, if you will, and we just remove this dead weight to make the rest of the rocket lighter and to gain power to continue the mission.
So at this stage of the mission, Raphael, how far along is our launcher?
So you can see that it has traveled 780
Fonctionnement normal du lanceur suivant les 3 axes.
kilometers in only 6 minutes.
That's incredible.
So it's now at the speed of 4.5 kilometers per second. I remind that all the parameters are on the screen, so everybody can read it. So it's 3 or 4 times the
Les paramètres
speed
propulsifs sont conformes à l'attendu.
of a bullet right now.
So we're getting closer to the naval station. What are the specificities? I can't say that word. The specifics of this station.
Well, unlike ground telemetry stations, the naval station is located right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. In this case, this is a ship that is equipped with an antenna that we position on the ocean a couple days before the launch.
So this is a mobile station on water.
So this station is actually the reason the launch was initially delayed a few days ago, not yesterday, but a few days before that, as their downrange ship was not in its position yet. It wasn't ready for launch, so they did have to delay a few days. Then yesterday they had the weather delay, but everything transitioning well, passing through T plus 7 minutes, 30 seconds into flight. 5.25 kilometers a second here. We'll have a few stage separation moments coming up here in just a couple of minutes. If you guys have questions, send those in the chat. We're going to begin answering those shortly. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. But let's keep listening in to Mission Control.
Launch is going in. Our launch is going in tonight.
Well, I mean, this is the targeted orbit that really drives the trajectory of the launcher. And it drives what we call the ground track. It is, in a way, the shadow of the launcher on the Earth's surface. And right now, the inclination of the targeted orbit for Galileo is 57 degrees with respect to the equator. And we have the obligations to continuously monitor the position of the launcher up to a certain altitude. And
Les paramètres à bord sont normaux.
sometimes, like today, it happens that we cannot follow the launcher from a fixed ground station because the launcher passes over the Atlantic Ocean, and it will continue over Normandy and England. This is why we need such a naval station.
It's going over my home country. That's brilliant.
You're English, right?
So yeah, if you hadn't guessed already. So anyway, so we're going in a northeasterly eastern direction. Is that right then?
Yeah, exactly. But you know, we use a different network of telemetry
Les séquences se
stations
déroulent telles que planifiées.
depending on the trajectory. For example, for a mission going towards the east, that's the case for geostationary transfer orbit missions, we use a different network of telemetry stations.
Paramètres propulsifs du bloqué conformes à l'attendu.
And when we target the sun-synchronous orbit, we are launching towards the north, and we are using another set of telemetry stations. And the DDO just said that everything is nominal right now.
So can you just tell us at 9:23, 9 minutes 23 seconds, he will be announcing what?
Well,
The
separation of the third stage, which is another very important step here.
It's now. That's right. We can see it on the 3D images.
Yes,
it's
and
quite
we are
incredible.
waiting. Yes, we are waiting for the confirmation, of course,
And there
from the
we have
DDO.
it. I think the most wonderful image I've ever seen of this type of golden mushroom.
Yeah,
what is that?
This is the Fregat upper stage.
Extinction du bloquis et séparation.
So it's confirmed. The third stage has been separated. And right now, it is the Fregat upper stage that is going to continue the mission. It is that upper stage that is going to place the Galileo satellites into their orbit, separated orbit. And from there, the Galileo satellites will place themselves on their operational orbit.
So can you just tell, what is it exactly in a couple of words before we get the announcement from the DDO about the ignition of the first frigate?
Yeah, so the ignition of the first frigate is really to place this upper stage, so it's happening right now, we will need the confirmation from the DDO, to place this upper stage on an elliptical intermediate orbit, and it's going to ignite for 12 or 13 minutes, which is quite long because it requires some energy to place the upper stage on this orbit.
So we're still waiting for confirmation.
Exactly, and then we will have a long ballistic phase of about 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Confirmation du premier allumage de l'étage frégate.
That's confirmed.
Brilliant.
So another,
everything is
probably
going to plan.
one of the most important steps for the missions, yes. Yeah. So I was saying that we will have 13 minutes of ignition of this upper stage. Then we will turn the engines off, and the Soyouz, the frigate, will follow the path. Engines off for a long ballistic phase. It will be like coasting in space for 3 hours and 20 minutes before it reignites. And this time it will change also the trajectory from an elliptic one to a circular one.
A circular, okay.
Yes,
that's
which is going to be the final orbit where the satellites are going to be separated into space.
It's moving at an incredible speed. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so right now it's
you can see the naval station coming into view on our...
Yeah, exactly. And I think that we will go from...
Acquisition de la télémesure par la station de Santa Maria des Açores.
So that's what I was about to say.
Tell us, Raphael.
Yeah, it means that the next...
Well, I'll tell you what's happening since they're not spitting it out. They just transitioned communications from the naval station to now they're starting to talk to Santa Maria. That's why some of the telemetry there is saying it's only going 0.01 kilometers a second. It's going faster than that. It's increasing a little bit. And as you can see on that second graph, the kind of yellow-green one, you can see we're kind of slumping down. That's because it's actually losing some of its altitude, but it will then begin to pick up and go. You did hear there that deployment isn't for about 3 hours, so we're not going to be live that whole time. So we're going to take you guys' live comments and questions, so you can keep sending those in the chat. Just take us at the launch pad, and we will answer those. And we're seeing that the Atlas... Let me take a look at that, Michael. I appreciate that. We will see if there's an update from ULA. Because maybe they delayed it again. Let's see. Yes, they have. Okay, so update for the launch that was going to be happening tonight. Later tonight, the UAE Atlas V. The mission has been scrubbed. During initial operations, a leak was discovered in the rocket propellant, or RP-1, ground storage system. That is not good. Launch is now scheduled no earlier than Monday, December 6th at 4:04 a.m. Eastern. So a 24-hour delay. Thank you for that information there, Michael. I appreciate that. We will update our live stream there. So no stream tonight for that. We will be live then tomorrow night for that one. So best way to make sure you know when launches are occurring, hit the set reminder button whenever we pre-schedule, and we adjust our streams as info comes out, and we pin the most recent update in the live chat. J.A. Hemlock, thank you so much for that super chat. So generous of you. Thank you. Thanks, Zach Hugs. Thank you. I appreciate you supporting us in that way. That is a great help for helping what we do here. We're going to keep listening into their mission control as we come up to 15 minutes into flight there. As soon they will be approaching over Europe for any updates, but keep sending in your questions.
Satellites and launcher campaign, and it will be coming up on our screen shortly. And Raphael, as usual, I'd like you to comment on them.
Of course, if the image come, because
Arianespace, if you want me to do your broadcast, let me know. I'll help you out.
see that the launcher elements arrive by boat at the Guiana Space Center. So they are stored in large containers, and the Soyuz assembly is done in the integration building called the MIC. So one can notice that the integration is achieved horizontally, exactly what it's done in Russia. And the lateral booster here are first positions around the central core, on top of which the third stage will be attached. And you can see that the operators look
so
very
small,
small,
they look
right?
very
Yeah,
small.
on the image. So it's quite impressive images that we see
It's
here.
vast.
And in parallel, the satellites arrived by plane. The two Galileo satellites arrived by plane and were transferred to the preparation building. There, many operations are done in clean rooms. Satellites are removed from their container. They are integrated on their adapter.
They're
they are
dust
fueled.
inspected.
Yes, exactly. And like you see, and like you said, these are very, very careful operations. And you will see that after this, the satellites will be transferred to another building where they are carefully mounted, so they are protected here.
Look at the graffiti all over that fairing on the side. Crazy. That's great seeing, though. I know we had a few questions before the launch on what the integration looked like, so we're glad that we were able to see this for it, and we're glad to have you guys here. If you're just joining us, though, you are about 17 minutes late to watch the liftoff of today's Ariane Soyuz launch. We're going to answer your guys' live comments and questions here for the next little bit before we wrap up for the evening. Dennis, keep up the good work. Zach, myself, and several of my comrades from around the country served in the Army Security Agency 50 years ago. Really appreciate what you do. Served in Turkey and Japan. Well, thank you so much, Dennis. I appreciate that support, and thank you for your guys' service and history there.
Soyuz and Galileo.
Take a look here as they're back to the animation.
us
If any
about the
update,
Soyuz launch?
you can see that altitude
Yeah, we had,
starting to
a
increase.
lot of operations that happened.
Fonctionnement nominal de l'étage frégate.
That happened for about 9 hours before the flight. Lots of operation, and we saw this magnificent flight happening.
Yes, in 1 minute, the DDO will announce the extinction of the first frigate ignition and the acquisition of Soyouz. This will be the beginning, obviously, of a very long phase during which we will cut off comments, but you can continue to follow the end of this mission and the separation of the two satellites on Twitter. As I say, we're waiting at 1822, around that time, for the acquisition of Soyouz, another station. And
Soyouz, which is located 20 kilometers south of Toulouse. So it really means that the launcher is going to pass in not too long above our head.
above our heads.
Yes.
That's brilliant to think that.
You can see it
So
coming up to 200
Flights
kilometers
follow
in
paths of
altitude,
different stations.
traveling over 58, almost 5,900 kilometers downrange already.
So after Soyouz, there is going to be another one, New Norska, that will follow the trajectory until the end of the mission.
So we're just seeing up on the screen now, we're about to lose Santa Maria, and we're about to acquire Soyouz. Can you see there, Raphael?
Acquisition de la télémesure par la
Si.
Yeah, we
station
can we can
d'Osaguel,
see the trajectory,
It's
the
going
path
to.
very clearly.
You can see that it really is going to pass over your hometown, right?
Well,
No, but like the reignition capability of upper stage is very key to perform such complex missions. It's particularly key to launch constellations, for example, because you need to separate the satellites, for example, at different locations in space. And so you need this reignition capability in order to manage these multiple separation satellites into space.
so we've just had the announcement, the loss of Santa Maria. And going back to our two satellites, the two Galileo satellites are the 23rd and 24th satellites to be put into orbit by Arianespace for the European Commission. The previous flight started in 2011, which each their own particularities. Raphael, can you tell us about the history of Galileo, which is the largest constellation ever built by the European Space Agency for the European Commission?
Yes. Like you see, the first Soyuz was lifted off from French Guiana in 2011. This was actually the first, this was for Galileo. The first Soyuz flight was for Galileo, and we're celebrating the 20th years anniversary of this launch vehicle. And since then, we performed 7 Soyuz flights orbiting 14 satellites, and 3 Ariane 5 flights orbiting 12 satellites, because with Ariane 5, you can actually accommodate 4 satellites at a time. With Soyuz, we launched 2 satellites at a time.
So how long has Arianespace been serving the institutions?
Well, since the very beginning, since the creation of Arianespace in 1980, it has orbited a total of 180 satellites for European institutions, for the European Commission, of course, for the European Space Agency,
And then today was the 150th flight they launched for any EU agency there, coming past up to 21 minutes into flight there. They're expecting to have that frigate burnout and enter that long coast phase. Deployment not expected till well after 3 hours into flight. So we're going to get ready to wrap up as we get that confirmation. Send in any last questions you have. If you're new, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help us out. We're on that road to 15K by the end of the year, and we appreciate each and every one of you for here. We're still working on that sinking, Dems. Hopefully soon. It's amazing the Soyuz work with all those engines. And it has worked for so long. Soyuz is a very old craft. Having almost 2,000 of them so far have been built and launched. So it is a very successful rocket that is going to be very hard for any rocket to really catch up with. For it, Starship, there won't be 2,000 of them because they're reusable. Maybe years and years, decades down the road, but we'll see what happens there. But coming up to 22 minutes into flight, we're going to keep listening in just for that confirmation of burnout before we wrap up. If you have any last questions, send them in the chat, and we'll be answering those. Don't forget to join the Discord as well. We'll be hanging out in there following the launch. Again, the Atlas V that was scheduled to launch later this evening delayed 24 hours, so we hope you will join us for that tomorrow morning.
Which is in 2 weeks. We will launch the James Webb Space Telescope, which is
really
going to be absolutely amazing with Ariane 5. It's the biggest telescope ever deployed into space. It will replace the current Hubble telescope. It will be placed, listen to me,
Where is it going to be
at
placed?
1.5 million kilometers from the Earth. To study with
1.5 million kilometers from the Earth.
Yes, exactly. To study with unprecedented detail the deep universe, because you probably know that the more distant you see, you look, the closest you are from the origin of the universe, which is the Big Bang. So it will really witness the birth of the most distant galaxies of our universe. And I'm thinking also of another one who will take off shortly after. It is the JUICE space probe. It will meet the icy moon of Jupiter, which has really fascinating worlds where scientists expect to find some forms of life. It is going to be very, very exciting.
Well, Raphael, we're just about to have soon the first phase of the Fregat ignition extinction. The DDO will announce that to us soon. Coming up on our screens. So the 2 satellites on board the Soyuz launcher tonight are Galileo M9, Sat 27, 28 we call them, and they're the 27th and 28th in the constellation. So, Raphael, where are they now?
So we are waiting for the confirmation of the cutoff of the
where
Fregat
are they now?
engines.
If you look at the map up on the screen, they're floating,
Can you see?
coasting.
Can you recognize?
Can I recognize? Is it England?
So right now, just to tell you that right now it's 600 kilometers of altitude, which is quite high.
So they're being cheeky. It's currently passing over Eastern Europe, heading towards Russia. I like their broadcast, but we're talking rocket science here. Let's answer some of these questions. Currently at altitude 630 kilometers, over 9,000 kilometers downrange, slowly picking up some speed there. As you can see, it very quickly increasing its altitude as it goes towards this coast phase before its deployment.
Waiting for
the confirmation of that burnout.
Stay there for 3 hours and 20 minutes. We will have a short telemetry loss for about 21 minutes, but like I explained to you, this is completely normal. And then we will have a second boost of Fregat in order to circularize the orbits.
Can I just tell our listeners that just to remind you all, we will be cutting off all comments during this long phase of the mission, but just don't forget that you can follow us the end of the launch on Twitter. That's what I wanted to say, Raphael. Everyone can follow us on Twitter. So what's the next steps of the mission, and what are the most important ones?
So with that, they're going to be wrapping it up here for the evening. Sometimes they leave their feeds up with the animation, sometimes they don't, but we're going to wrap up with the last couple of questions and then go from there. Are they
10 kilometers from the...
Well, it looked like they were going to be speaking, but nope. But with that, 26 minutes into flight, it is on its way. 3 hours and 40-ish minutes is when deployment will occur, so about a long time till that. So we're not going to waste your guys' time, but we're glad to have had you here. If you're new, take a moment, hit that subscribe button. We'll be live tomorrow for the launch of Atlas V. We've got James Webb coming up in a couple weeks. We've got 3 more Falcon 9s this month scheduled, a couple more Soyuz, so we hope you will join us for all of those. We are live for all launches that have live views available. We also bring you space news updates as major space news occurs, as well as exclusive interviews returning at our brand new show, The Launch Pod and The Launch Podcast, launching the first week of January. We're excited to introduce you to Ian as he and I launch that show right here on YouTube and on all your audio podcast networks. But that is going to do it for us. Another nice, quicker launch of a Soyuz from French Guiana, just over an hour from start of stream to, well, not deployment, but coast phase. And we're glad to have had you all here for that. If you haven't yet, take a moment, check out our Etsy shop as we wrap up. There's still about 48 hours left that you can order shirts and hoodies and still get them in time in Canada, US, and Europe for the holidays. About 24 hours left for you to order any James Webb stuff and have that in time to wear on launch day, and we're glad to have you for that. Anita, you're spot on. There's another Rocket Lab, isn't there? Lots of stuff coming up. So we'll be, of course, live for all of that right here on the launch pad. Here at the launch pad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, and we believe that space is better together, so we invite you to be part of our community, and you can do that by subscribing, being active in the chats on the Discord, and sending in your guys' live comments, questions, and stuff like that. But that is going to do it for us today in our live launch coverage of Arianespace VS-26, a Soyuz mission carrying the last 2 Galileo satellites up into orbit. And we appreciate you guys being here for that. But for now, this is Zach signing off. We'll see you next time.